Welcome back to Memory Card. We're on slot 2 for this month. Last week you heard us talk about Kirby Star-Crossed World, the DLC that came out in August. Today we're going to go back in time to one of the more influential games that both Joe and I think as a kid, and that would be Kirby Dream Land 2. It's funny because I played Dream Land 1 the most, but Dream Land 2 really elevated the bar when it came to gaming on a Game Boy for sure, and in a black and white world that now, I mean, chiptunes and very basic graphics are long gone from today. But I wanted to start off with, in Dreamland, this was the first game that we had Kirby have companions. And I feel like it's the first game I can think of as a kid that you actually had someone else alongside you.
You mean like the companions that you can get in pretty much any level almost?
Yeah.
Yeah, I always loved Rick. Always been a sucker for him. Like, what's cooler than riding on top of a giant hamster?
So the first three companions that we had in a Kirby world was Rick the hamster, who's the overpowered hamster that literally does everything under the sun. You had Coo the owl, who helped Kirby fly, but we already know Kirby could fly to the end of the level without having to hit an enemy. And then we had Kine the sunfish, who I don't even know how to describe. Are we stealing sprites from like Link's Awakening? Are we stealing fish from just in general? It just seemed like kind of, it made sense that you had land, sky, and sea, but at the same time it felt like we were reusing a character.
I think a lot of early Nintendo games, like on an NES and Game Boy and stuff, you reused assets between different IPs. I mean, there's a chain chomp in Link's Awakening.
Oh yeah, I know, and a whole mission. There's a Yoshi. I don't want to get on a tangent, but I could talk about Link's Awakening forever because that game is very nostalgic. Just like Dreamland, right? We have Kirby in a new world with some of the same copy abilities that we've seen in the past. We had the fire one, we had Cutter, we had Ice, we had Needle, the parasol that Weedle D and Waddle Dee were swinging as they move into the world. We had a rainbow sword, a spark, and a stone. And what I like about what they did in this game was that now that you had a companion, they upped that level. And you could have that power and then have Rick shooting flames from his mouth, or turn into a giant porcupine because he had Needle. I just feel like they did justice when it was like, oh, here's a companion, then let's add a whole nother layer to it where it is a like mix of a normal ability with this animal.
You got more than just like the change in powers too. Like, Rick didn't slide on ice. And Kine would allow you to like suck in enemies when you're underwater, which is pretty cool. And Coo made it a little bit easier to fly. Like, not the biggest advantage, but you'd be a little bit more steady in the air rather than like bouncing or just like being stuck to the top of the level. But you really did get a lot out of just those three companions, especially in a Game Boy game.
Yeah, I can't think of what else I would need besides, like I said, land, sea, and sky in order to get my fill of this cute factor of Kirby, and then it's even cuter when you have this pink puffball on a hamster that is just like your new best friend.
Especially when Rick turns into a boulder and you just like you walk on top of him to roll him through the stage.
Yeah. All of these like are just fantastic. The Coo one where you turn into I'm trying to think what it is. The spark, and you're literally basically Krakow now because you're shooting sparks down at the earth like you are a thunderstorm.
Mm-hmm. Is this the... This isn't the first Kirby game with copy abilities, though, is it? Because I think Kirby's Dream Land 1 and Kirby's Adventure doesn't... I don't think they have copy abilities.
I know Kirby's Dream Land 1 doesn't. It's literally just you sucking in and shooting out. Kirby's Adventure...
That's weird. It says Kirby's Adventure came out in 93, but a different article on the same page says that it's a direct sequel. But it also says it is... the game marks the introduction of Kirby's trademark copy abilities and introduces many characters which are now standard to the series.
Oh, here you go. No. The original release date for Dreamland was 92.
All right, so that
and then
makes
Kirby's
sense.
Adventure is 93.
Okay, so yeah, Dreamland 1 doesn't have copy abilities. Adventure introduces them, and then Dreamland 2 makes them, good.
That's actually shocking to me that the Game Boy game came out first, and I played the Nintendo game before I played the Game Boy game.
Wow, there's a lot of copy abilities in Kirby's Adventure. I actually didn't realize that.
It was crazy, and they did such a good job of it. And then they had to cut it down 2 years later, right, in Kirby's Dreamland 2 to only 8.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you could call it 32 if you talk about 8 for Kirby, 8 for Rick, Ku, and Kine.
True. Maybe that's why, because you get so many variations on it. That could be why, because there's 25 of them in Kirby's Adventure.
Oh, that is pretty impressive. Yeah, there was Superstar. So that was the one where, there were 8 games in one. You had, a time trial, you had a gourmet race, you had all these different things, but, that pulled from Adventure and Dreamland, because I don't know how else you would go from 25 copy abilities to however many were in that. That one I definitely know introduced a lot of new ones. It's funny because Game Boy had so many platformers at the time that I feel like that's the genre that it was known for. Super Mario came out with the Super Mario Land, and then Super Mario Land 2, and we're just pumping out all these platformers. I feel like the Game Boy only had the capacity to do something like that, or a basic RPG.
Yeah, I think when you've got four directions, like you've got a D-pad and an A and B button, your options are kind of limited to side-scroller, Pokemon, and chess or checkers. Your options for games are very limited, and it's amazing how small you can, file size wise, you can compress a side-scrolling game into. They probably were super easy to build within the constraints of the original Game Boy.
Yeah, I mean they give you 7 levels, and across multiple stages, right? You have the grassland, you have the forest, you always have your island, and then an iceberg, and then we went into the mountains where you were literally rickrolling on stones. the cloudy
Excellent.
park, and then the end with the dark castle, and a lot of the enemies that you've seen over and over again talked about last week, Wispy Woods, and then you bring in the Ice Dragon, and one of my favorites, Mr. Shine and Mr. Bright, where you're fighting either the sun and the moon, depending on the sequence of the game. You got your Krakow, who, again, you had that ability to shoot down lightning. Well, he's coming at you again. And then we top it off with King DDD and Dark Matter.
Yeah, there's a lot of boss fights there. The one that you said your favorite, the Sun and the Moon guys, are. I said before we started really recording last week that I was watching a playthrough of it of somebody else just to get a reminder of some stuff that I haven't played in a while, and that boss fight came up and was like, this is really impressive because it switches between both bosses in the middle of the fight, and they both have their own health bar. So, like, when it switches from one to the other, their health bar changes, and when you kill one of them and the other one takes over, like, if the other one only had three bars of health left, that's what they have when they jump back into the fight. And just for a Game Boy game that's either clear or green, and probably I don't even know how much memory the Game Boy had. Basically nothing. Like, that's again very, very surprising and very intricate. Along with all the other stuff that they put into that game, like, it was not a small game for the time by any means, and they still added something cool, something small like that, having a double boss fight with dedicated health bars and stuff.
Yeah, I'm always floored by how much they fit on cartridges back in the day with the capabilities that we had. I was thinking of one from Super Nintendo. One of my favorite ones is an artist who has multiple canvases and is drawing something and is like flying at you, and at the same time it's like, for a Super Nintendo game, you're like, wow, you have all these characters like flying on your screen at the same time, right? Mr. Bright and Mr. Shine had two different move sets, which you had to program, right? You said they had two different health bars, and then Kirby has his health bar. It's like impressive that they fit so much with all the abilities, the bosses, the levels in just to a single cartridge, that it really, again, from Dreamland 1 to Dreamland 2, you're like floored by how much more that they added to a single cartridge.
And every different area had a cutscene intro.
Oh, you're right.
Like, right? And, like, they put that in there too. So, like, there's the intro video, there's the intro for every world, there's the transitions, there's the different bosses. Like, how did they fit that in? Did you even get a full megabyte on a Game Boy cartridge?
Kids today aren't going to know what a megabyte is. Everything's gigas and teras.
Okay, so still incredibly impressive. I'm not sure which one Kirby used, but the original Game Boy can hold 32 kilobytes to 4 megabytes. The Game Boy Color got 128 kilobytes to 8 megabytes. Like, 8 megabytes is like an MP3 and a half at, like, medium quality, Like, it's, if we're talking, like, Spotify quality, it's probably, like, half an album. But, we're talking a video game here with cutscenes and commands and controls and instructions, and some of them have the ability to do multiplayer over a link cable, and they cram that all in under 4 megabytes.
I just had a conversation with my kids about compression, and they were, like, floored. We could talk about this a lot longer, about a PS5 game that they crunched 113 gigs into 30 gigs, and they were just, like, baffled by it. We'll talk about that later. But, no, it really is. Like, again, kids today aren't going to know how big an 8 megabytes, right? Like, you write probably 10 lines of code, and you're already at multiple kilobytes. So
yep. Yeah, and that's it. Like, the code itself takes up so much space, let alone the assets for it.
I would really... I always want to watch more, like, how was it made? And I feel like I should go and watch more, like, how was Game Boy cartridges programmed to fit what they needed to with the assets they had. Again, you're packing, right, an infinite void of things into Kirby's stomach. Let's fit it into this cartridge.
Yeah, I know, like, a lot of games have a lot of, like, asset reuse. Like, you can easily find online, like, the bushes and stuff and the clouds in Mario are the same assets. They're just colored differently. So that definitely helps. But but still, like, you still have to manage them in different colors and different textures, and I don't know, it's amazing to me. And like, I work in computers, I work in technology, and still can't comprehend how they cram this full game, or any full game for that matter, in such a small amount of space. There's I don't know if they still do it, but there used to be a competition, like a coding competition for like JavaScript games that had to be done in like a single line of code that was like under 8 kilobits or something, and like people made some impressive stuff in that, and I don't understand it. I actually don't.
I know when I'm teaching Python that kids are like, how many lines can I get this down to? Yeah, with JavaScript, right? It looks ugly, but someone's gonna figure it out to put it all on one line. Is there anything else you think we need to touch base on when it comes to Kirby Dream Land 2?
I don't know, man. It's just such an impressive game. You know, they did so much with it. You know, we really could continue talking about that for forever, but like, they really did a lot with it. They did the level design is awesome. Like, you get your left to right levels, you get your right to left levels, you get there are vertical levels. There are levels that, you know, the ones that push you and like move on their own, where you can't go backwards. You have 3 different companions that like you can switch between them if you find one, and you can use any power that you want and any companion that you want to get through almost the entirety of the game, but there are specific ones that you need at specific times to get to certain areas to really 100% the game and get the actual ending, the actual boss fight at the end, which again is another thing that's very cool for an old Game Boy game, where there's, you know, you can do this whichever way you want, but if you do this our way, you know, there's a reward at the end of it for you. You know, I think the only thing we kind of don't get out of this game is a story, an explanation. Like, I don't know why this game happens. I don't know what's going on here. And like we were talking about before, you know, the more you think about it, the more it's like, wait, maybe Kirby's the bad guy here, because he's just going around eating enemies that like aren't enemies. They're just animals in the wild. Kirby's like, yeah, I'm gonna swallow you whole, and that's it. But like, so yeah, without a story, you get that weird effect, but otherwise you get everything out of this game. It's really, really good.
Yeah, I feel like last note that the TV show really like portrayed him as a villain, because he destroyed an entire village by sucking it up, and they were just trying to have like a happy gathering picnic and feast together. So yeah, he might be the villain, and you're right. There is no story, but it's an enjoyable game.
He's basically like the kid version of Boo or Majin Buu, whichever one from Dragon Ball Z. Like, he's just a big, scary, gooey pink thing, and we just kind of like we dolled him up for this video game. But yeah, I've got no reason to believe so far that he's not the bad guy. Just because he takes out a different bad guy doesn't mean that they're not both bad, and that hurts to say. I love Kirby.
Well, he'll always be a hero in our hearts, especially when we're driving around Dreamland in Kirby Air Riders.
Hell yeah.
I think that's all the memory we have left in slot 2 for Kirby Dream Land 2. I want to thank Joe for being here on the Kirby podcast, because I know how much of an avid fan he is of this franchise.
Thanks for having me. It was fun.
And as always, I want to leave a little question to pose to you, and I want to know in the comments who's your favorite Kirby character. And look forward to Memory Card in January, where Dan and I will be talking about the Metroid Prime and Super Metroid series.